Deep within the heart of the Appalachian Mountains of West Virginia, where the trees grow so thick they swallow the sunlight by mid-afternoon, lies a stretch of land known to locals as the Whispering Ridge. There's a rule among those who live in the nearby small towns. If you go hiking and you hear someone calling your name from the bushes, no, you didn't. If you see a friend standing in the distance who was just behind you a second ago, no, you didn't. And above all, never, under any circumstances, whistle after the sun goes down. Ethan was a professional urban explorer and a skeptic. He had spent years debunking ghost stories across America, from the haunted asylums of New York to the voodoo-stained alleys of New Orleans. He arrived at Blackwood Ridge with a high-end camera, a GPS, and a sense of arrogance. He wanted to document the Appalachian phenomenon, the strange disappearances that had plagued the area for decades. As he began his hike, the forest seemed unnervingly quiet. In the American wilderness, a silent forest is a warning. It means the birds and the insects are hiding from a predator. But Ethan pushed on, talking to his camera about the local folklore of skinwalkers and mimics, creatures that could steal a human's voice and appearance. He laughed at the camera, calling it superstitious nonsense. By 5 p.m., the fog rolled in, thick and cold. Ethan realized he had veered off the main trail. He checked his GPS, but the screen was flickering wildly, the coordinates spinning in circles. He decided to set up camp and wait for morning. As he was pitching his tent, he heard a sound that made his blood run cold. "Ethan, Ethan, help me." The voice was faint, muffled by the fog. His heart hammered against his ribs. It was the voice of his younger sister, Sarah. But Sarah was 300 miles away in Ohio. "Sarah?" he shouted, his rational mind fighting his instinct. "Is someone there?" The forest fell silent. Then, from the darkness behind a massive oak tree, the voice came again, clearer this time. "Ethan, it's cold. I can't find the way back." Against his better judgment, Ethan grabbed his flashlight and ran toward the sound. He pushed through the thorns and the dense brush, his light cutting through the mist. He saw a figure standing about 50 yards away. It looked like a girl in a white jacket, the same jacket Sarah wore. She was standing perfectly still, her back to him. "Sarah, how did you get here?" Ethan cried out, reaching for her shoulder. The figure didn't move, but as Ethan got closer, he noticed something horrifying. The person was too tall. Its limbs were elongated, and its joints seemed to bend at impossible angles. When he was just 5 feet away, the figure finally turned around. It wasn't Sarah. It had no face, just a smooth, pale surface of skin where eyes and a nose should be. But in the middle of that blank slate, a jagged horizontal rip opened up, revealing rows of needle-thin teeth. The creature didn't scream. Instead, it spoke in Ethan's own voice, perfectly mimicking his tone and inflection. "Ethan, how did you get here?" Ethan didn't wait. He turned and bolted back toward his campsite. His lungs burned, and the branches whipped his face, drawing blood. But every time he ran past a tree, he heard his own voice whispering from the shadows. "Ethan, stop running. Ethan, I'm right behind you. Ethan, give me your skin." He reached his tent, scrambled inside, and zipped it shut. He sat in the dark, clutching a hunting knife, his camera still recording on his tripod. He could hear something circling the tent. It wasn't the sound of heavy footsteps, but the sound of something dragging itself, a wet, slithering noise. Then the scratching stopped. A heavy silence settled over the ridge. Then he heard a scratching on the thin fabric of the tent. A voice whispered from just an inches away on the other side of the nylon. It was his own voice again, but this time it sounded distorted, like a corrupted audio file. "I am Ethan," the thing whispered. The tent zipper began to move, slowly, very slowly. A pale, long-fingered hand with black claws poked through the opening. Ethan screamed and lunged with his knife, but the hand vanished. He stayed awake until the first light of dawn broke through the trees. Shaking, he packed his gear and sprinted back toward the road. He finally reached his truck, locked the doors, and drove for 3 hours without looking back. A week later, Ethan was back in his apartment, trying to make sense of the footage. He watched the video on his laptop, his hand still trembling. He saw himself running, heard the creature's mimicry, and saw the faceless thing in the fog. But as the video reached the final moments in the tent, he saw something he hadn't noticed that night. In the corner of the frame, as he was sitting in the dark with his knife, the camera had captured a reflection in his own eyes. In the reflection, he saw the creature wasn't outside the tent at the end. It was hanging from the ceiling of the tent, directly above his head, its mouth wide open, inches away from his scalp, silently mirroring every breath he took. Ethan froze. He felt a cold draft in his apartment. He looked up at the ceiling of his bedroom, and then, from the corner of his dark room, he heard it, his own voice, perfectly clear, whispering to him from the shadows. "Don't look up, Ethan. I'm already home."